Hi bunnies! Hope this video finds you well. Now that 2024 is officially done and over with, I wanted to talk about some of my main opinions that I've had with K-pop, especially considering the year that 2024 was for idols and fans alike. This video will be split into two parts. Part 1 will have more of my broad opinions, while Part 2 will have more videos specific to groups that I care and look at the most. But before we begin, here's a disclaimer. Disclaimer. These videos are my personal opinions. Nothing that will come out of my mouth is going to be 100% factual, and I am more than happy to learn in case one of my opinions is factually incorrect, the right opinion and the right information. But that being said, I do have the right to speak my mind. Okay, now that that's out the way, let's get started. Number 1, K-pop isn't fun anymore because of fans. So this opinion is going to be pretty hefty, but I'm going to delve into what I'm actually talking about. This sentiment of K-pop not being fun anymore is always going to exist from every single stan, no matter what generation you began standing. However, in my opinion, I feel like this phrase didn't exactly hit until late 4th gen and currently 5th generation of K-pop, now that it has its own footing. And what I mostly gather from this sentiment is that a lot of fans wish that they could put blame onto someone else, but they refuse to take accountability for the role that they play for the lack of fun in the K-pop world. And in my opinion, there are 3 main reasons that I'd like to point out as the reason why fans contribute to this sensation. A, general entitlement. B, competitiveness. And C, overall meanness. So for part A, the first thing that takes precedence over everything is fans having this level of entitlement over their idols from what they do while they're at work, what they do when they're not at work. So what exactly is entitlement, you may ask? The textbook definition of entitlement is the fact of having a right to something. In other words, thinking you're owed something when in actuality, you're not. A few common examples of this is following idols around in their downtime and recording them, stalking them, blowing things out of proportion, causing unnecessary scandals, and especially those specific fan calls. But I'll get into that bit a little bit later. In the later half of 2024, there was a clip of some of the ENHYPEN members walking around, and you can obviously tell that their guard was down and it was their downtime. Yet there was a fan that was recording them, and you can see Sunwoo get spooked, and he's gonna give a very nervous wave. Another instance last December was a story time of a TikToker explaining that she wasn't following Kyo, though he expressed feeling that he was being stalked or followed. And one more instance, during ATEEZ's American leg of the Towards the Light tour, some fans purposely went to K-barbecue places in hopes of spotting them. Purposely going out your way to follow these idols when they're in their downtime is more than unfair to them and exemplifies a type of entitlement in thinking they're supposed to give you their undivided attention at all times. I think a lot of fans tend to forget that ultimately we do not know these people. These are regular people the same way we are, and the relationships that we cultivate is merely a fan and idol relationship and nothing further. It's unfair to assume that just because we see an idol in public, that they're automatically supposed to perform for us. It's great to see them in public enjoying their time. And if you really want to talk to them, the least you can do is do so in a respectful manner and respect their boundaries if they say no or show negative body language. The other way entitlement shows itself is through unnecessary scandals. So, in February, Karina had wrote a handwritten apology for dating, and in early December, the debunked dating rumor of Winter and Jungwon. Now, for me personally, dating scandals never made sense, and the reason why is because I don't feel entitled to these people's dating lives. I could care less who my fave dates. As long as my fave is happy and not dating a criminal, I really don't care, because guess what? It's their life, not mine. The implications of Karina apologizing and writing a handwritten apology is heartbreaking when you consider the fact that she's only 24 years old. She, alongside other idols, have already given up a good portion of their childhood and adolescence to pursue this career. And now their fans want them to give up a key part of their young adulthood, which is pursuing romantic relationships. It's sad how idols are expected to just not date each other or even date at all, because fans have to have their attention at all times, and for some reason, them having a partner ruins the fantasy that is already unattainable on its own. Furthermore, every time a male and female are around each other, it's a shame how friendship cannot be immediately assumed. Some people need to get their heads out of the clouds and understand that these idols are insanely attractive people, and they have way more similarities to each other than we think. It's more than fair to assume that they want to date one another to explore and express their sexualities and think about the other part of their future lives. But what's not fair is to try to destroy their lives over developmentally correct behavior. This behavior extends to non-dating related scandals as well, such as choreography and clothing. For example, Misamo's second comeback, Haute Couture, had to change the choreography, and in strategy, Sana's fan cam had been erased due to the outfit that she had on. I want everyone to put their thinking caps on for this one. Misamo are grown women, and they're seniors in their company. This added context put together means that Misamo have the autonomy to make certain decisions on their own. And if they truly felt that they were uncomfortable, their concerns would have been verbalized and changed. Sending trucks to change choreography because it's too suggestive is just redundant, when the concept itself is suggestive. They're grown women that can make their own decisions. And for the most part, they know about their comebacks at least a solid few years in advance before the public does. So most of the decisions are already pre-made. These ridiculous scandals happen because fans have this level of entitlement to what idols do to their bodies and what they do with their time. Following them around, harassing them for normal behavior is just absurd. And unfortunately, companies play into the disrespect. Now, part B, the second reasoning is competitiveness. I'm going to keep this point brief because that last point was a lot to adjust. But what I mean by competitiveness is how so many fans are quick to bring up numbers as a way to justify superiority over a fandom or a specific artist. This quickness to bring up how many numbers an artist has, how quick an artist hit 1 million streams, how many music show wins a group has, etc., so on and so forth, is, in my honest opinion, dumb. The quickness to bring up numbers when you're in fan wars tells me you either don't care for the music and just want to brag, you're either unemployed and bored, or you're into K-pop for the wrong reasons. I think it's crazy to constantly bring up numbers in an argument because if we're being real honest, some of y'all faves actually buy their way into the industry or naturally have a leg up in the industry. But y'all don't want to admit that because it destroys the superiority complex that you created for some odd reason. And part C, the last reasoning, is just general meanness. This is a big issue in a lot of media, not just K-pop, but the rampant rudeness, disrespect, and overall just mean behavior that's happening in K-pop is just getting way too out of hand. Some people think they're Regina George when really you're Grinch, pre-Christmas. Being a mean girl is not cute, especially over groups and fans that do not deserve to see you upset or take you out of your character. The Seraphim's Coachella performance, in my opinion, as a retrospective, is not as horrible as fans tried to make it out to be, or antis really. As someone who stayed up very early at 1:45 a.m. to watch them, I enjoyed their performance. Do I personally think they were ready for Coachella? No, not really. They're amazing, amazing performers. And I just think they needed a few more practices and more performances under their belt before really taking on Coachella. But the hate delivered to the girls was just so next level mean and hurtful. And then it didn't help when their documentary came out and people decided to take their vulnerability and turn it against them. You don't have to like certain idols or certain groups, but there are plenty of groups and idols that I personally do not like, and it's never going to be an excuse for me to be unnecessarily mean to them, and especially so unnecessarily mean to where all of their comments on all of their platforms have to be turned off. Secondly, resorting to slurs when referring to a group is low and disrespectful. And what I mean by this is I'm referring to people who specifically go out their way to be xenophobic and homophobic when it comes to talking about Zero Base One. I'm sorry that you are not comfortable with groups that provide safe spaces for marginalized communities. And I'm sorry that you feel threatened by their presence, that a slur is the only way you can invoke a reaction from them or their fans. Some fans desire to be that mean girl bully character, and I think it's pathetic and it's ridiculous considering that this is literally a music genre. And the crazy thing is, most of y'all faves that you stand and love are individuals that preach kindness and acceptance. And in my true, honest opinion, if you truly do not like something, it is so easy to disengage and take it away from your feed. Social media is what you make out of it. Why are you going out your way to look at things you dislike? It is not hard to hit a block button. It is not hard to hit an unfollow button if you already followed them. It is not hard. Stop making your life hard because you hate individuals. Number 2, most K-pop fans are not real music listeners, and it shows. What makes K-pop unique from other genres in my eyes is the sheer amount of content that you can take in from the group of your choice. Most groups have their own reality shows, they go on multiple variety shows, vlogs, behind-the-scene content, lives, bubble accounts, Weverse, and have multiple promotion stages with unique outfits. However, while all of that is amazing, some fans in general have strayed away from the actual intention of K-pop as a music genre. Most K-pop fans enjoy the content and the serotonin that they get from looking at content from their faves that they don't even notice when the music is downgrading or improving because they only take in the title tracks and the promoted B-side. Real music listeners to me are people who take the time to listen to a release from start to finish and take the time to digest the music they're listening to. A great example of this is ITZY's Gold and Born to Be, and MX's FE304 Break and Stick Out releases. Prior to ITZY's releases for 2024, a lot of fans were claiming that they're missing the old ITZY, and I miss the old ITZY. So it's with shock and disappointment that people paid Born to Be dust. Now, I can understand slightly why, just because Leah's absence, making those who biased her a little bit reluctant, and the confusion of what the actual title track or the B-side was a little bit confusing. But the entire mini-album is absolutely amazing. Now, of course, this is subjective, but from the jump, this was the ITZY that everyone claimed they were missing so badly. But again, it was paid dust because for some reason, everyone refuses to engage with something critically without other people's influence. Furthermore, when Gold came out, all the tracks for Gold were equally as amazing, and Imaginary Friend as the promoted B-side is the core of ITZY's theme as a group and their musical direction. And again, that song was also paid dust because most fans refuse to listen to a song that makes them think and engage with it in a meaningful way. The OT5 versions of Born to Be songs on Gold make the Gold album feel like a deluxe album, and I love me a good Gold deluxe album, okay? These 2 releases made me genuinely want to stand and listen to ITZY and watch even more of their content. Now, to switch gears, NMIXX this year came out with FE304 Break in January and FE304 Stick Out in August. And both albums have been absolutely amazing to listen to and understand where NMIXX is truly headed in their musical direction. Now, I've been a fan of them since debut. And when I was defending the heck out of OO and Tank, I just truly felt in my heart that these girls are going somewhere. These songs were out of the gate, and they're genuinely trying something different, and especially with considering the whole mixed pop genre that they're trying to do. So Antwerp, Espergo, and Midsummer Dream were the perfect stepping stones to delivering FE304 because it allowed the producers a chance to explore the girls' voices, their strengths, weaknesses, and their musical charisma and seeing what makes the most sense. In the beginning, they underlies Ju and Bae and Soyeon, and now they balance the girls perfectly and push them musically. The joy of knowing that a group has gone from musically good to musically amazing and established is a great feeling. Groups like ITZY never lost their found. In fact, they polished it, but the reluctance to listen to albums is why they're still left behind. Easily understandable music is great, but sometimes you have to build your musical palette to be able to appreciate more songs. And that starts by listening to more songs past the title track. The additional content, the way that I see it, is to build that connection if you already like the music. It's meant to really be a plus because the music is supposed to be sessionable enough. I think a lot of K-pop fans that don't listen to albums and are very quick to judge off the title track alone genuinely miss out on enjoying their faves for the music and nothing else. Being a young adult, of course, my priorities change, and I simply don't care to keep up with extra content like I could when I was younger, because I have other things that I care more about. Listening to albums allows me to engage with K-pop and gives me a rich experience since I'm primarily listening to the music now, and the occasional behind-the-scenes content on the musical process. This also ties into my bullet point on competitiveness within fans, and how some fans just like knowing they have the numbers. While you may have the numbers, it doesn't be a timeless release that can be enjoyed at any time. And the more you listen to it, the more subtle details you know that build the entire song. Streaming culture in K-pop specifically makes it hard for people to appreciate difficult songs or songs that have a lot of small details that make the song good. So when there is a good release, it's likely not to be appreciated. Number 3, minority fans in K-pop are allowed to feel hurt by actions and the apologies of racist intentions. What spurred this opinion for me is this lovely image right here. Personally, for me, I don't blame the girls for this at all. This is the result of their company trying to reduce black culture to being one thing, and in my opinion, try to make a mockery of what black culture is. When Young Posse came out, I immediately knew they were not for me, and their Ain't That title track cemented that opinion for me. For context, that release was styled after GTA, which is a game that portrays, for lack of a better word, a negative archetype of black and Latino characters being in a fictional LA setting where there's high rates of crime and violence, and the game encouraged you to act in a way that allows you to act however you like. In their music video, there's a scene with a black character in which her and one of the girls of the group share a moment of recognition with a hand sign. In my honest opinion, this was a wrong choice and rubbed me the wrong way because it easily makes it seem as if this fictional world in their music video is something that can just be emulated and ultimately easy to turn off and go back to their normal selves. And of course, the way the song uses AAVE in its main chorus is distasteful on its own because it just sounds wrong and a way to get people's attention. So for this image to come out during Christmas time, I'm deeply irritated by how their company is trying to portray an image for the girls while failing to understand how inappropriate their decision to do so is. If they're trying to gain popularity internationally, so be it. But I'm sick and tired of hip-hop and K-pop being seen and used as a concept rather than a genre that has so much history, heart, and soul behind it. You can learn as many hip-hop dance moves as you want and rap however you want, but you will never be hip-hop. This personally felt racist and ignorant to me because, again, it's portrayed in a non-respectful manner, and ultimately, the girls don't live this lifestyle they're portraying. So why are you going out your way to make them act this way? Another thing to add, I've about had it with K-pop fans trying to dismiss people of color's opinion on things that hurt their feelings, even if something may be reaching. For example, P1 Harmony's Scarves in the Sad Song release. We are the ones who can understand the implication and the attention. I'm happy that idols explain themselves and apologize, but they're not always going to be guaranteed forgiveness and acceptance from the community that they hurt. Being African American, especially at the results of this election, I simply do not have it in me to coddle people and accept half-made apologies. If you still want to be friend of these groups and idols, be my guest. I truly wish the girls all the best. But I want no part if they're going to just see my culture as a concept that can be taken off and put on a shelf. And I personally think a lot of K-pop fans need to stop defending these people. These are grown men and women. And even if they're children, there's still history and context behind the concepts that they're using and they're doing. And if you're going out your way to not be respectful about it and make a spectacle of it, I have the right to be upset. And so do many other minority fans have the right to be upset when they don't see the apology fit or if they just don't see the concept worth it in the end. Number 4. A lot of K-pop fans are easily impressed with visuals that vocals are starting to be put on the back burner. This opinion really stems from the survival shows that have happened in 2024, but I'm specifically referring to Project 7, now that the lineup is officially out. Okay, so I want to preface by saying I didn't watch Project 7 because I personally don't like survival shows. I already watched Boys Planet and I already watched 16. I don't need that stress in my life. But the general consensus that I see from this show in particular is that everyone is attractive, nobody can sing, and fans chose potential over talent. Survival shows, in my opinion, demonstrate where we are in the idol community and what we care to prioritize. And unfortunately, from this recent show, it seems that we're at a point where we are just debuting pretty people that have no talent and people who are just easily trainable. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the way that the trainee system is set up is that it's designed to polish people's existing skills to perfection. But it becomes a bad thing to where we have great performances that lack any real vocal talent or vocal capabilities. We have rappers who can't rap, rappers who only rap because they can't sing, singers who just can't sing, and dancers that have no prior training or any talent to do a genuine freestyle. This obsession with how good looking an individual is, to where as long as they pass at all the skills they're supposed to know, it just makes for a lackluster experience. They either have very musically simple music, or they eventually fade into obscurity because they don't have anything that makes them stand out. Survival shows like this one, where the lineup ends up with, let's be honest here, a bunch of attractive dozens, makes it easier for people to accept mediocrity and for other companies to follow suit. Which kind of segues into my next opinion. Number 5, idols that are exceptionally good at one thing will always be better than being moderately good at everything. Okay, so let me explain this a little bit. Typically, while watching survival shows, there's always going to be at least one contestant that is referred to as being an all-rounder or an ace, either by themselves or their fans. And for me personally, rarely is that title actually correct, because when you really look at it, they're just moderately good at everything, and they don't stand out really well in one specific category. With how current survival shows go now, everyone is practically an all-rounder, because rarely are there individuals who are excellent at one category, and in my opinion are pushed to just be good at all three to avoid giving proper titles like main vocalist or main dancer. Being an all-rounder is perfectly fine, but it's the idols with a special talent that can actually make the group stand out at large instead of blending in with everyone else. For example, singers like Jongho and Lily, dancers like Chaeryeong and Ten, or rappers like Changbin and RM are exceptionally talented in their specific categories. And that actually helps their group gain some recognition, because when we see them in their element, they shine and add that special spark in their group. Or in the opposite direction, when they're doing something that they're considered weak in, it makes it exciting for when they get a special moment. For instance, if you watch Jongho's fan camps, especially in Ice on My Teeth, he does so many intricate details in the choreo that I just love, and it's so cool to watch him dance. And Untouchable and Mr. Vampire gave Chair an opportunity to showcase her vocal skills, considering that Leah was on hiatus. It's nice being able to see a main vocalist not only kill it in their specialty, but deliver pleasant surprises in choreography and special performances. If everyone's an all-rounder in a group, what exactly makes them special individually? And what really pulls them into the group and stay with them? This isn't to be mean to those who call their faves all-rounders. In fact, my personal faves, Gunnock and Yeojin, are basically considered all-rounders, and they always keep me on my toes for when they do next. But that's because they're exceptionally good, and not moderately good, if you catch what I'm trying to say. I guess what I'm really getting at here is that idols who are amazing at one category have just as much value and arguably are more important than those who are just decent at everything. Number 6, idols need a union. Now, for this opinion, I'm gonna be real honest here. There's only some things that I know and some things that I don't know, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But this opinion is going to be pretty hefty, considering the weight and the gravity of what this would entail if it actually existed. But as we know, 2024 and 2023 have been the years where idols have actually started to stand up for themselves from a legal perspective through lawsuits and generally going through court, and most likely and typically on harassment. What spurred this opinion for me is the result of what was ruled after Hani's appearance at the National Assembly audit. To summarize, Hani brought up her claims of mistreatment, and in turns it failed because she, as a K-pop idol, aka a celebrity, is not considered a worker. Now, for those who are cheering on how it ended, we need to look at the real implications of what this ruling means. It means that these hard-working individuals who basically devote their childhoods into training and their adulthood to performing are not considered actual employees or workers. This means that all of those long hours that they invest pre-debut and after cannot be used as a base of mistreatment, fat-shaming them, over-exhausting them, putting them on unreasonable diets, and that's just supposed to be the law of the land because it's not deemed as mistreatment or harassment because they're not considered a real employee. This implication is insanity when you consider that there's no real break time for these idols. For instance, TXT were said to be going on a very long hiatus, and rightfully so. This was announced December 10th, but allegedly they're supposed to be going on a tour roughly around March or April. When you consider the fact that they already concluded a tour in 2024, they had 2 comebacks, and their appearances in award shows, and this is excluding their solo schedules. 3 months genuinely does not seem that long of a break. considering the fact that it takes a while to prepare for a tour physically and mentally. If we consider American artists and Western artists, typically they say it takes about 3 to 4 months to prepare for a tour. So imagine these idols are already preparing for a tour, and on top of that, they have comebacks to release. Mind you, all those comebacks have their own special stages and their own choreo to know and memorize and perfect. So they're planning for this tour, and along with whatever comebacks they have planned for 2025. And for them to announce a long break, but for that break to be basically 3 months, is literally a scam. Because they basically crammed 3 months of content into 1 month. But because there is no celebrity workers union in South Korea, there's no way to really regulate how long a break is or how frequent their breaks will be. And continuing on from Hani's situation, real issues like what happened to the OG 50-50 lineup and Maiden don't get any real progress done because there's no set guidelines to allow making lawsuits with specific situations like those difficult, because it's always going to lean towards the company rather than the idols themselves, because again, the idols are not considered workers. They're not considered real people. They're not considered employees. I'm very happy that idols are now standing up for themselves where it really matters, in court. But I really wish they had a union that could at least protect them in some way to avoid the heartache that comes with not being considered a worker and, honestly, not being considered a human being. I personally feel, especially nowadays, now that we as fans have more insight into how dangerous their contracts are, it becomes more apparent that there's no protection for them. Even certain laws that are being made and certain laws that have been kind of enforced still don't help, because ultimately a lot of these idols face so much harassment from people who claim to be their fans and people who aren't their fans. So much so that it leads them to literally being in the mental health hospital or having to take a long hiatus. And then again, when they come back on hiatus, it's not guaranteed that they're not going to be harassed again. And it's not guaranteed that their company will protect them from that harassment. Number 7, parasocial relationships are getting out of control. Okay, so by this point, you made it this far in the video. Congratulations, here's a cookie. This is my final and last opinion for this video. So the main reason for this last opinion actually ties into part A of my first opinion, and that is the general entitlement of fans. And as of 2024, I think the parasocial relationships that people have with idols have gotten so unbelievably toxic and out of hand that it's getting ridiculous at this point. And the worst part is how it will continue to get worse because companies keep encouraging and enabling the behavior simply because it makes them money. Now, of course, what made this opinion come to life is the excessive fan calls, primarily the ones where the worst kind of fans receive the calls and the timing of the fan calls, and of course, the entire situation that is happening to rise. Let's start with fan calls. So for prior context, fan calls came as a result of COVID in 2020 and was a way for companies to get back the lost revenue from fan-signed events. Fan calls are 100% random, as experienced by Lily from NMIX. But your chances of receiving a fan call are higher the more money you spend on the album to qualify to put your name in the list. The chances of you receiving a call from less popular groups is 10 times higher, but it's typically popular groups where we see more inappropriate moments from the wrong people that get chosen and when the most drama starts to happen. I think it's crazy how we're in 2025 and idols still don't get the chance to hang up when a caller is being inappropriate or asking overly personal questions or being rude when they're upset that they didn't talk to a member that they wanted, or they're upset about their English skills when they make no effort to communicate in Korean. And it's sad how companies further encourage this by allowing them to continue entering raffles and allowing their call to continue despite pushing the boundaries of the idol in question. In addition, the drama that comes from group orders is even more absurd. A recent example is some 18s in a group order were lied to by the host, given how she had swapped out the winner's name for hers and immediately went private after doing so. It's one thing to want to see your fave and talk to them, but it's another to see one member 60 times in one comeback period. Lying or just generally being disrespectful is so ridiculous. There's no reason that your connection to this random human being that you do not know warrants this kind of behavior. And to put this into perspective, oftentimes these fan calls are done after the fan sign event, which already lasts a few hours. And now they have to talk to even more fans for another few hours. Of course, idols are happy to interact with fans and vice versa. But genuinely, I'd be slightly annoyed if I talked to one fan in person, only to turn around and say that I have to talk to them again, virtually, for the 30th time in that month. These people are not your friends. They're not your colleagues. They're celebrities. It's their job to make you feel as if you're close to them, when in actuality, you're not. And it's okay to know that. And this is why the current situation that's happening to Rise is a prime example of what happens when this parasocial relationship is taken too far and fans' entitlement gets mixed in. I'll talk more on how I feel about Rise's situation, especially in part 2 of this video, but in the case you don't know, some fans thought sending him wreaths was appropriate to protest Sunghan's return to Rise, all because he had dated pre-debut. Again, I'll delve more into how I personally feel about the situation in part 2 of the video, but this is ridiculous. SM allowing for the wreaths, legality of it all be damned, was the worst decision for K-pop as a whole, because now it shows that if a group of dumb delusional fans want a member gone for a small reason like dating, it's possible. I don't even want to listen to Rise or watch anything that has to do with them, because it's just more money in SM's pocket to continue enabling these fans' actions. And even more so, there have been recent editing to hide Unsuk and other Bryces claiming that Wonbin needs to be removed for him standing up for Sunghan's return. This entitlement, because of the parasocial relationship a certain demographic of fans have, ruins any chance for Rise, who are designed to be an international group, to actually be big internationally. Alongside that, it damages their passion to even be there with their fans, because a point on who exactly in that crowd cares about me, and who in that crowd is the reason why my friend is gone. It sets the worst precedents for K-pop and in the future, and I hate that for Rise and any idol that may have the same situation. At the end of the day, no matter how much money you spend to get idols' interactions, or you hate on an idol, or you harass an idol, you don't know these people. And you will never know these people on a personal level the way you think you do. Get over yourself. Another situation that I'm particularly very surprised on was Taeil's whole scandal. This is a prime reminder that we don't know these people. They can portray themselves as the nicest person on their variety shows, on their behind-the-scenes content, on their vlogs, but behind closed doors, they are abusive, they are evil and downright horrible to their core. But yet you still have people that are defending him, saying, oh, he didn't mean to do it, or oh, it's her fault. It is never someone's fault for the violence that is inflicted upon them. And I need y'all to understand, there are so many things in the industry, and there's so many things about being a human being that is genuinely never worth it. What he did is insanity. And you are crazy to think his actions are appropriate. And in my opinion, a lot of K-pop fans, again, this ties into my part A of my opinion on how a lot of you guys have so much entitlement to these idols that you don't recognize and understand when these idols are genuinely evil people, when these idols don't care, or when the companies just are using you for your money. It's not hard to pirate things. It's not hard to go on a different music platform and make sure that you're not getting the money. It's not. It's a matter of if you want to. And it's a matter of if you actually want to defend people the way you say you want to defend people. I'm not going to lie and say that I don't have a connection with my favorite idols. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, well, I don't really care about them. Or, oh, I don't really care, I obviously do. I care enough to make a video about it. I care enough that I've been a fan for practically a decade at this point. And I'm still going to be a fan at this point. But seeing the fact that people are allowing this idea of their delusions, letting it take over, is absurd to me. They're not going to date you. Why are you mad that they're dating someone else? You live in a different country. You live a solid 16-hour flight away from this idol. And for those of you who live just maybe 20 minutes away from their company or whatever, get out of there. Leave them alone. They're grown. They can make decisions on their own. And obviously their decision is not to be with you. So stop being hypocritical, pull yourself up, and again, get over yourself. With that all being said, thank you so much for listening to my video. Sorry I ended on a negative note. I know that it was long, but hopefully part 2 will be slightly shorter, even as by a few minutes. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, evening, night, or whatever time you find this video. Hope to see you soon. Bye!